AITA for gossiping with my mum about my brother's fiance is potentially lying about giving birth. When my brother returned from his trip, him and Jane left to stay at her mother's and we didn't see her until after the baby was born. John said this was because Jane was afraid of losing the pregnancy and wanted to be with her mum and we needed to respect boundaries. Whenever someone would ask about Jane or the baby, they would shut it down with vague answers like every pregnancy is different or she's carrying small, which isn't unusual. They barely shared anything about the pregnancy. No ultrasound pictures, no baby shower, and Jane didn't want anyone around during the delivery. I also discovered that every craving she listed came from one article about pregnancy cravings. She even listed multiple items in the same order as the article. When the baby was born, we were finally allowed to see Jane and John, and baby of course. It was very bittersweet as we all wished we could have been there for Jane to help out, but Jane and John both reassured us that we did help out by staying away during the pregnancy. The weirdest part though, is how Jane describes the birth. She claims she had an epidural via IV drip into her hand, edited BCI didn't elaborate, which is not how those are administered. When I asked clarifying questions, thinking she had gotten confused, which is understandable, she shut down and refused to answer, like how she would during the pregnancy. She said the baby had latching issues because he was born with no umbilical cord stump. This can technically happen, but it's a rare and fatal medical condition that their baby does not have. The final straw was when she told us that the baby basically fell out of her within an hour of being in labor, despite my brother telling us how hard the birth was, and even stating that was why they weren't going to try for any more kids. Mum is on the same side as me, and has been noting this inconsistencies and inaccuracies but doesn't know how to bring it up. And their reactions don't help. A few days ago, my brother texted Mum saying her doubt of Jane is disrespectful and they both want full apologies from the both of us for bullying Jane about her pregnancy/labor. I haven't made any outright accusations about it, nor have I said any of this to Jane. I've only asked questions when she brings the birth/pregnancy up. AITA for having doubts. Some of Oops comments. Commenter, part of a longer comment. By all means keep in mind that she may not be a reliable narrator, particularly if it comes to medical matters, but other than that, just enjoy your nibbling. This is not a situation where you need to prove her wrong or set her right, and to if you continue to gossip. Also, why jump to lying, which implies ill intent. Also, why jump to lying, which implies ill intent. Because their stories change. One day the labor was a grueling, touch and go 24 hours and the next day it was he just slipped out, I didn't even feel it. The labor was an hour or two max. One day I had an epidural given via IV drip in my hand and the next it was so quick and easy, I didn't need any pain meds. One day he was born without an umbilical cord stump so he doesn't latch easily and the next he was born 100% healthy. Everything about it changes on a day-to-day basis while my brother and Sil try to insist there's nothing weird going on and anyone who merely questions these changes is a gossip bully. I'm trying to be nice here and not imply ill intent but when they jump down your throat for asking how much the baby weighed, it's hard not to. Commenter, AITA. Sounds like they adopted a baby but are too scared to tell you, but not afraid to tell her side of the family, because you might judge them. Welcome the baby and stop being nosy. It's really none of your business. I mean I was adopted and John is a surrogate baby so I'm unsure about that part. Commenter, maybe at this point they are freaking with you. Downvoted, I hope so. I hope they're really good actors. Commenter, I doubt you and your mum are reliable narrators. Especially considering you googled her cravings. I've had 3 children, no baby showers, and carried low with my first. You couldn't tell I was pregnant. Especially considering you googled her cravings. Yay haha Sil told me to. She kept saying her cravings were common and to look it up as proof. Then I found said article and realized she was listing every craving off the list. Commenter, info, why does it matter? Why not just ask if they adopted or used a surrogate if you want to know so badly? Why not just ask if they adopted or used a surrogate if you want to know so badly? I said I would love to adopt one day. I'm adopted also, but that surrogacy is also on the table. They both started crying. When family asked if they were okay, my brother told my uncle to shut up and they left. So I'd Commenter, I feel like in any situation it's totally reasonable to fact check. Just a question of what you do with the information. Oop, but also, they told me their newborn had this birth defect and didn't elaborate. So I googled it because I had never heard of it. Then I find out it has a 100% death rate. So now I'm assuming this newborn baby is going to die soon because all babies born with body stalk anomaly live for a few days max. When I bring it up with them, they tell me that actually no, he's not going to die and he doesn't really have body stalk anomaly. So I went from prematurely grieving this newborn's death and panicking that he was going to pray to being told that he's actually fine. So like, how am I supposed to react to news about the baby now? More on body stalk anomaly. Body stalk anomaly is a very different thing and it means it's a defect in which the abdominal organs develop outside of a baby's abdominal cavity and remain attached directly to the placenta. Yes. That is what they said the baby had. The baby very clearly does not have BSA. But that's what they said, and continue to say, the baby had/has. The baby cannot have an infection on an umbilical cord stump that is no longer there, because it fell off like it's supposed to. They both said the baby's stump was not infected. I know the baby doesn't have BSA. Sil and brother, however, continue to say baby has it, which is not true at all. That is why I was pushing back on them about it because it makes no sense. They still maintain the baby had no infection and is in good health but simultaneously has BSA. This is why I'm so confused by what they're saying. Top comment on post. Ambitious Border 906, the reality is that nothing much adds up, but there is one reality you can buy into, your brother and his fiancé have a baby that is theirs. You can remain out of their lives forever or let your obsession go and enjoy your niece/nephew. Your choice, but you would be an R if you chose option 1. Oop is voted AITA. Update post. Well, I was right to have questions. After I made my post I stopped talking to my mum about the pregnancy but things still didn't add up. Fast forward to my brother's birthday and the whole family was over at mum's. Our aunts, uncles, cousins and older brother were all guests. During the party, Jane mentioned how the baby had BSA and our aunt called her out on it. She's a maternity nurse. It caused a huge argument where Jane and John left in a rage. But it turns out that Jane didn't give birth. The baby is actually a product of my brother's affair. He had been cheating on Jane with some woman for about 6 months before she got pregnant. Apparently, Jane and John offered her a lump sum of £25,000 for her to allow them to adopt the baby when it was born and to never interact with the baby or their family ever again. They didn't want this cheating to be found out, so they pretended Jane was pregnant and moved away. Jane's mum was in on the whole thing. The kicker? This all came out because the woman John had the affair with decided she wanted her baby back. Apparently, she hadn't been fully informed about the agreement's legal implications, and she felt pressured to sign it in the first place. She also barely speaks English and the contract was all English. She's now pursuing legal action against Jane and John to get full custody of the baby. She said she waited this long because she was afraid of her immigrant status getting in the way. All their closed-off answers and refusal to engage was because they were afraid of this coming out. Apparently, Jane was terrified of someone noticing the baby's eyes, green. John and Jane both have blue eyes but Lucy has green eyes. Things have gone to absolute poop. The whole situation is bigger than anything I could have imagined. I won't be updating unless something else crazy happens. I'd if this was a sign to keep trusting my gut, but damn, I'll be logging off in a few hours. Thanks to everyone. Smile. Some of Oop's comments. Commenter, downvoted, you need to get Sil out of that toxic relationship ASAP. Help that girl wake up. Oop, I mean they both orchestrated taking advantage of the woman. They're made for each other. Commenter, why didn't they just say they will adopt a baby? Oop, well that's what they did under the guise of tricking the woman. I don't know what the contract said exactly, but from what I know, my brother told her she'd be able to see the baby, but the contract said that by taking the £25,000 she'd never see her baby or my brother/his extended family ever again. I feel awful for her and I hope she can recover and get her baby back. Commenter, yikes. I hope that poor woman gets her baby back. In the US at least, there's a visa for people who report a crime and cooperate with prosecuting the perpetrator. It's frequently used for domestic violence. We don't know the details and whether they can be charged with a crime given the contract. Maybe something like criminal coercion? In any case, I hope Mama and baby are reunited and thrive together. Sorry you have to deal with the family mess up. Oop, we're in the UK where paid surrogacy is illegal unless it's for reasonable expenses. For example, buying your surrogacy maternity clothes is legal, paying them a lump sum of £25,000 is not. That's not even getting into the fact that they tricked her and didn't even attempt to provide a translator, a contract in her language, anything. Mood spoiler, fricked up. You sure got that right. At least this one didn't end with murdering a real pregnant woman to steal a baby, which is sometimes where these pregnancy fakers take it. I was getting concerned as I read. I thought while reading this that Jane must have stolen a baby. I'm sad that I was sort of right. These people are insane. All of them. The couple, the baby vendor, the mill. Holy poop. I remember reading the first post of this when it first came up, and I was so baffled by all the comments calling Oop and ah. It just seemed so obvious that Sil and the brother were faking the pregnancy for whatever reason, but how was Oop and ah for questioning them on the huge lies, plot holes in their story? I hope the mom gets custody of her baby back. Sil and brother were absolutely awful in taking advantage of the fact that she could barely speak English to steal her baby from her. This is one where I genuinely don't get the original AITA verdict. I had my second son at 29 weeks. I didn't tell the neighbors because I miscarried a couple years before after sharing I was pregnant. They asked about it, felt bad and it was super awkward. So now I was barely showing. Had the baby delivered very early to save my life and he ended up staying in the NICU for 2 months. It took a couple months for me to recover and was finally getting ready to bring him home. My neighbor didn't even know I had ever been pregnant. So I knocked on her door and said I was bringing my baby home this week and didn't want you to think I stole him from a park. She said, "How nice you are adopting." I said no, he's mine, I had him. He's just been in the hospital. Once again, AITA users really are some of the most immature and outlandish individuals I have ever seen. Good fricking God. Holy poop, I didn't see that coming. Isn't there a terrifying post on here somewhere about a pregnant woman whose baby daddy suddenly got back with his ex and said ex started taking over baby responsibilities and it became increasingly clear that the two of them had orchestrated him fooling around in order to trick someone into providing a fricked up surrogacy? I wonder if that didn't happen here too to that poor woman. That's just fricking nuts. I don't get the web of really stupid lies. Like why give the baby a fatal birth defect? I was so weirded out that all the commenters jumped down Oop's throat and voted AITA for having a problem with being consistently lied to about her nephew. Even if it had been something as harmless as adopting and not wanting to say, constantly lying to someone changes their emotional reactions to everything you say, which will inhibit their emotional connection to both you and the baby. I don't know what planet these people are living on where constant lying is just a natural part of a close relationship with loved ones. Oop even went into detail about exactly how it messed with her feelings, like when she thought their baby was about to die because they had just hastily googled some illness and not bothered to check if it's fatal. Apparently, Jane and John offered her a lump sum of £25,000 for her to allow them to adopt the baby when it was born and to never interact with the baby or their family ever again. I don't think that's how adoption works in the UK. You have to go to family court to adopt. I'm pretty sure there has to be social workers involved. Now maybe the baby wasn't legally adopted, they just took it and planned for her to disappear, and Jane wouldn't be on the birth certificate and they were tricking her, but it doesn't seem that plausible. Even saying she's pursuing legal action against them. I don't think she'd need to, as legally she'd still be the mother. Also, the Daily Mail would be all over this if it happened. None of this sounds at all possible under UK laws. It's not the same as the USA. Brother and sister-in-law could be in serious trouble if this is all as Oop says it is. Oop was not the R. Where the frick do all these people who said to come from? It's so clear to see, even just from reading it, that they were faking the pregnancy in order to cover for themselves, and effectively cutting the child off from their family. I have a sil that lies about almost everything. When she first married my brother, I questioned everything too. Something felt off. All the time. Just like with Oop. And you try to convince yourself that it's okay but you can't. And you tried to figure out why it feels wrong, hence the research. And after enough years, you just stop believing anything and pull away. I remember the original post and people were shaming the op for thinking that her sil was lying. When you know something is off, it's okay to ask for clarification. I hope the woman gets her baby back. Because they used emojis in one of the comments, half of the post is missing the first letter on each line, on the app version. My first go-to was that Jane straight up stole a baby out of a womb. Maybe I engage with too much true crime. I take umbrage with the AITA posts. Reddit should have done better. My advice at the time would have been they are obviously lying but won't admit it. Just smile and nod, and roll your eyes silently when they are out of earshot, and let them pretend their contradictory nonsense is true. They likely adopted and refuse to admit it. Nothing is gained by throwing their lies back at them when they are determined to gaslight to the end. This is so nitpicky, but it is the bane of my existence when posters here don't bother to make sure they got the first letter of each new section they copy and paste. I don't enjoy having to guess what the word is based on context clues and the letters that do remain. My favorite part is that she was voted a bad person for being gaslit poorly. No one's going to point out that the Oop referred to the baby as he in the OG post, but Lucy in the follow-up. Dollars to donuts, either none of this is real, or the baby really was Jane and John's, but Oop is pissed she was called an bad person, and needed to feel vindicated. I can't stop picturing those tiny dudes from Willow shouting, "I stole a baby." Green eyes versus blue eyes in a 4-month-old? No one is questioning parentage over this. Is it just me, or is there a trend in Reddit posts where men trick women into having their babies in an unwilling surrogate way? I really hope it's a troll, because it might be one of the blesses trends on here. If you enjoyed this video, check out this playlist for more of the best Reddit stories, or watch this next video for your daily dose of karma. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep the karma flowing.